Now, I know most people in the room. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Chris Hinsperger, and I'm privileged to work at a local tourist attraction. I'm privileged to start every morning all summer long by walking through a cave and looking around and seeing the marvels of Mother Nature.
Everybody knows you.
Do they? Okay, sorry, Sue. So everybody knows me. What's even cooler about walking through a cave and taking a look and being humbled by the marvels of Mother Nature is getting to share that with people every day. And I always look for opportunities to share that. I look for new ways of sharing it. I talked a little while ago about recreational geology, and recreational geology isn't just picking up rocks and collecting minerals. It's about what we do with that geology and what we do with that knowledge and how we share it. And I had I've had several life-changing experiences in my life, and whether my life needed to be changed that much or not, well, that's up for debate, and I don't think so, but I have had some changes. I went to a poetry reading about 6 years ago, and son of a gun, the people were reciting poetry, and it didn't rhyme. But it was very cool. And I came back and I explained this to my friend Preston O'Grady, who was my former English teacher. I said, Preston, poetry doesn't have to rhyme. And he said, Chris, it's called free verse. Weren't you paying attention in my class? And I guess I wasn't. I spent 6 years in high school. Well, I decided I'd sign up for a poetry workshop. Well, just before I get into that, I wanted to let you in on something else that's sort of, I don't want to call this a life-changing experience, but it certainly has fueled my passion for sharing geology. And I went to the TEDx presentations at Algonquin Park on Wednesday, and a couple of cool things happened. Gave me some ideas and some fuel to go on. One woman captivated me, and she talked about how we raise children differently today. And we've got children, some children growing up, suffering from what has become a disorder, and it actually has a clinical term, and it's called nature deficiency disorder. Kids today who are growing up without nature get to be adults, and their skills in problem solving are affected, their imaginations are affected, the way they see the world is affected. And it is described as a disorder. It was never an issue when we were kids. We were just told to get outside and play. And that's what we did. We got outside and played. Today, parents have to belong to programs and take training to rethink how they treat their children, and they have to make an effort to get kids out to play and get them away from screens. I know adults who grew up in nature and who have entered into their adult's life, and they have been affected by nature deficiency disorder. However, an adult who has grown up with nature can change that just by getting out in nature. You raise a kid and don't expose them to nature, you can't all of a sudden say as an adult, okay, get out in nature and you'll be okay. We have a responsibility as adults to make sure that kids experience nature. Yeah, thanks, Dave. So, when I heard that, I said, that's cool, I've got a cool job, and I've always thought I have a cool job, but it just makes it seem cooler. And she was saying things like, kids don't get hurt the same way. They don't fall out of trees. How many people in here fell out of a tree as a kid?
I did.
Yeah.
I got cuts from falling out of trees, actually.
We say things to our kids like, stay on the trail, or don't touch. Well, it's really nice. Say Adam at the Caves, we hold out fossils and we say, touch. And I realize we're doing some really cool things, and I don't think the Bonnechere Caves is certainly going to take over curing everybody of nature deficiency disorder, but we certainly play a role in that. So I was going to a workshop on poetry. I decided, you know what, I experimented with writing, and the exercise was to go outside the building, and we were up in the Opiongo Mountains, no closer to nature than that, and we were to pick a piece of nature, whether it be a bark or a rock or a leaf. And of course, I'm walking around and I'm very attracted to stones. So I pick up a stone, and I've got a stone over here.
I said you're gagging as we put our doctors.
So I got this stone in a field, and the exercise was to write a story or a poem, but I listened to the instructor. I thought she said write a story and a poem. So I wrote a story and a poem. And yes, that's why I spent 6 years in high school. And when I got to present, she said, well, Chris, you wrote a story and a poem, so you can read them both. So this is my stone.
Really good.
And it's a hunk of limestone.
That guitar sounded.
Actually, I'm going to let you in on something. This isn't the stone I picked up that day. This has another story, which I'll get to in a while.
It just sounds.
So I wrote a story and a poem about my piece of stone.
You put it through yours? Through your amp?
Listening, Linda?
Yeah. Yes, I'm listening, Chris.
Okay. My story of my stone is called The Wisdom of Journey. They tell me a story, these rocks do. A story of strong determination mixed with unstoppable change. The energy of a planet's life stored in its skin. If they could talk, these rocks would tell a story of acceptance mixed with vulnerability and of confidence to face the elements, knowing that change is inevitable, maybe even leading to extinction. If in fact an element can go extinct or metamorphosize into something else, a new beginning. They carry wisdom of a millennium, the knowledge of a time before me and a time that will come after me. A reminder to cherish each moment of each day. A reminder to celebrate, as these rocks do, as the sun warms them, the rain bathes them, and the earth's animals play on them. Their purpose is not in question, but rooted in their very existence, a testament to the creativity and beauty and compassion of Mother Nature. And that's the story I got to write. And my instructor, thank you. And my instructor also let me read my poem that day, and I call it Not Just a Stone. My stone is hard and strong, yet my stone is vulnerable. My stone is wise and knowledgeable, but has more to learn. My stone has experience, however, more to experience. My stone is very old, yet it has more life to live. My stone is proud of itself, but will accept change. My stone is brave, yet fears for its planet. My stone shows no emotion, yet radiates the love of Mother Nature. That's my stone. Now, just before I give up the stage, I want to tell you the real story of this stone. Well, that is a story about another stone. This stone was given to me by a young fossil hunter about 5 years ago. I've been doing fossil hunts with my former geography teacher from high school, Stu Jack, Fossil Stu we call him, and we've been doing these fossil hunts together, and it was the brainchild of my former English teacher from high school, who I mentioned earlier, Preston O'Grady. And Preston figured that there should be a partnership between a local business, the Bonnechere Caves, and the museum to promote geology. Well, the ball has rolled right along. We probably saw over 200 people this summer on our various fossil hunts. We now are developing a recreational fossil hunt geology trail here in Eganville that will be open all the time, that will give people another reason to come to downtown Eganville. Of course, I'm not going to go on a big long tangent, but I could about economic development and how it's tourism and, you know, how us just having fun here in Eganville, and we invite other people to have fun, and people spend money here, and it gives some of us jobs, and it gives young people jobs, and Adam works for me, and he's going to get up later, and Hillary used to be a young person that worked at the caves.
Now I'm an old person that doesn't work.
Now you're an older person that doesn't work at the caves. So this stone, I have a young friend, and I'll call him Izzy, because that's what his name is. Izzy, he's taller than me now, but when he was a little guy, he would come on the fossil hunts, him and his sister Marley, and they were on a few fossil hunts. And I remember Izzy telling me one day on the street, he says, "Chris, I found a fossil of a cow." I said, "Izzy, you've been on fossil hunts. You know that the limestone around here is from the Ordovician time period. It dates back 400 or 500 million years. There were no vertebrates. It was all invertebrates. It was different creatures with shells. You know there were no cow fossils back in the Ordovician time period. So if you have a piece of limestone with a fossil in it, it's not a cow. He says, Chris, it's a cow. I've seen it. He says, I've got it. It's a cow. I said, well, tell you what, Isaac, you bring that fossil to me. Well, sure enough, he brings me this rock, and it's 10 minutes into my fossil hunt, and beside the museum showing fossils, and Isaac brings me this cow fossil, and I explained to the folks, I said, this is Isaac, he's a friend of mine, he's been on fossil hunts, he's brought me this fossil, and he wants me to see it, and I said, Isaac, you know, we're going to look at this fossil, and you realize it's the age of the invertebrates. There were no vertebrates, there were no cows or deer or moose or anything like that. And he says, well, Chris, here it is. So I looked at it, I said, Isaac, that's not a cow, that's a moose. And I'm just going to quickly walk around the restaurant and show you this fossil that Isaac brought me.
If anything, it's a pig.
Oh, it's a pig. Okay, yeah.
It is a moose.
It is a moose, eh?
How do I see pig and others see
It's a
moose?
goat.
They got a test for that?
Well, you failed.
Oh, actual test.
And that was her sheep, and that was Isaac's cow fossil.
Garlic mashed potatoes.
Use the mic over there. Why don't you use the mic?
You ordered well so far?
Yeah, that's it.
What did you get? What'd you get? What have you got home? Just out of energy to go for a run tomorrow. You can run, you just have to do it by yourself. That's what she was saying.
it for John.
We've been doing these things here for several years, having music nights coordinated with our fossil hunt days. We had a fossil hunt this morning. I took a family down on our fossil hunt trail. The kids all found fossils, and they've gone home with a little treasure from the Bonnechere Valley. One of the cool things about doing these things is you invite people into a space and you see who comes into the space, and it's always cool to see who sort of steps up to the plate. And we have a friend here, a new friend, Mary Thompson, who is a poet, has a book of poetry, and she's here, and I'm going to give the microphone over to her to share some poetry and some thoughts. Thank you, Mary. Yeah, might as well shut it off now. I tell you what, shut it off and then turn it on again.